Guys, welcome to Let's Talk with Matt and Johnny. In this episode, we're going to be talking around the documentary that's actually on Channel 4 at the moment. We did one last week talking about Roman Kemp, talking about his friend with suicide. This time, we're going to be talking about the one with Caroline Flack on Channel 4. If you haven't watched it already, by all means, we say go and watch it. Go and give it a watch and listen to her story about it as well. And we're going to be reflecting on that today. I mean, I watched this last night, and my initial thoughts on it is that it was quite clear that she had some sort of not necessarily a mental illness, but she had that kind of that tendencies for depression very, very early on. Some of the early videos that you saw of her, she was crying and very upset and very emotional child, which obviously then got magnified when she was older, with the fame and everything else that came along with it. But yeah, it's quite an interesting story as well. But obviously I want to get your reflection on it as well, guys. So Johnny, first of all, what's your thoughts about it, mate?
Powerful documentary. It was very evident that when Caroline hit fame, very quickly, very suddenly, I think it was X Factor with Ollie Murs, and she got absolutely slammed. Both of them did, because they were replacing Dermot O'Leary, and that's a big model, a big role model, and a big presenter to replace. So the pressure was on before the show even began. The media made a massive impact on her life, and I don't think she knew how to deal with it. The people around her that spoke about Caroline were clearly couldn't understand the way that she was processing the negativity and processing the pressure that she was getting. I thought it was really sad, really, the whole self-harming. When she was. One thing that really shows up for me, one thing that I saw, was when she was, I think it must have been like the red carpet, and she had about God knows how many cameras. Caroline, can you move your head this way, move that way? Like, honestly, how can you deal with that? Like all them cameras there, I struggle with one, let alone 50, 100 cameras. Yeah. So really, she put on a very, very brave face, I think. And she, like we said in previous podcasts, mental health is an invisible illness. So it's very good to put on a face and very good to hide that negative factor of feeling low. But it just shows that, for me, I definitely don't want to be famous. I don't know about you, Sanj, but I just, for both of you lads, no way would I want to be famous after watching that.
No, I completely agree, mate. I have no interest in being famous or even being a celebrity or anything like that. There was one thing which I picked up on about this, is that ask you two actually outright. Did you know before obviously she passed away that she had any type of mental illness?
No.
No, I think there was certain things in the media that you read, but that's all you get access to, don't you? Really, you get access to things that are in social media, and you get things that are saying, "Oh, Caroline's been like this." But you watch her on the programs. You watch Love Island. You watch her on other programs with other people. Things like she was on like Celebrity Juice and stuff. She's very good friends with Keith Lemon, wasn't she? So, you watch her and you wouldn't know, would you? She put on like they said in the program, she put on a very, very good act.
But this is the point, right? No one really knew apart from her close family. So this is the problem, is that people they're not understanding, they don't know. Now, I just thought about something. Think about Tyson Fury. I know, completely opposite ends of the spectrum. Obviously, he's gone through a massive phase in his life where he's gone very depressed, tried to commit suicide. But then look what everyone knows. Everyone knows that he's had issues and he's had problems and he's dealt with them and he's worked hard to change them. We never knew about Caroline's past and the problems of the past. It's just, see the big difference, and the difference is between talking and not talking. Now, let's be honest. Like, if obviously something did happen before she actually tried to commit suicide and then all of a sudden did speak up, then what would happen then? She probably would still be here today. Right. But yeah, I mean, the documentary itself, it was obviously the year that's gone past since she passed away. I remember when I found out, I was in Texas, in Austin, Texas, and I looked on the news and I was just like, what? I was like absolutely in shock, because I always had a lot of time for her. She's a great presenter, great personality, just very warm. This is the thing, you just never know. You never know. And I know we've said it before, you never know who's fighting a battle. So be kind.
Which is, you know, exactly what they, you know, when as soon as she passed, there, you know, there was a lot of people that were wearing kind of like "Be Kind" t-shirts, if you remember, back in February last year, and yeah, it's just a mad thing, isn't it? That you think that somebody is well, and you think they're kind of on top of their, very much like we were saying about Joe in the last, you know, thing, Roman's friend, that, you know, somebody that you got to think they're you know, they're doing well, they're successful, they're you know, are able to go and do things, they are in a sense, you know, successful people that you would think, oh, they've achieved what they wanted to achieve, they've set out what they wanted to do, right? But still have these very, very, you know, deep underlying things, because in those two examples that we're talking about in the last episode and this one, is that both of these people didn't talk about it, weren't open with their friends or family necessarily, kept it very, very private. And even though, Sandra, you said that obviously they're the family and very close friends may have known episodes that she's had in her past, but she was very, you know, wanted to keep that quiet. There was things that, when I think there was a point in there, it was with her mum, that she was saying that where she had to take, I think it was maybe like antidepressant pills or something like that, that she didn't want anyone to know.
No.
She was like, keep that quiet, don't tell anyone. And that's at a young age. That wasn't when she had fame or whatever. She was on her way up, right? And, you know, and even then she was like, don't tell anyone, I don't want anybody to know, don't want anybody in school to know that I'm taking these things, and was very, very private then. And I think she had that whole kind of stigma of, if I let myself, my true self, show of the vulnerability of how she is, that she would not be as successful as she was, which you know, in hindsight, we could say, oh, that's ridiculous. Like, you know, that's you're the personality there behind the scenes. You kind of let that out, and you have some insecurities, which we all have, you know. But yeah, I think that's where she kept it so hidden, and kept it so, you know, and there were so many people that were, even after as well, that came out and were like, I can't believe that we didn't do enough. And
she didn't want to show a weakness, though, because she was Caroline Flack, the energetic one, the people that went to her to talk to, the fun one. She didn't want to be that person that was down in the dumps, because that's just not her personality. She was buzzing around, she was a good presenter, she was on Love Island, she was everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And that, I think that's really sad that she, obviously, I know her family found out, no one else knew. Like Ollie Murs, he said, if I knew, like Ronan Kemp with his friend, if he knew, then he could have helped. He just never knew, couldn't even like grasp a concept or you know, get into her head, or when she was talking, even get them signals of any weakness. And I think that is sad, so sad.
Do you reckon if Roman, sorry mate, do you reckon if Roman Kemp, if his producer knew that he was on antidepressants, because obviously he's been on it since he was 15 or something, I can't remember what the age he was. So if he was on it since he was 15, then do you reckon if his producer knew that he was on it, that his producer might have opened up?
That's a very good point.
What a point.
Yeah. Is it? Yeah, we don't know whether they spoke about it openly like that, whether Roman was open with him in that sense. Yeah. And
you see what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And it's the same thing, you know, with Caroline, is that there's, you know, showbiz, there's, you know, out of the national average of people, you're going to have other people that are in showbiz that are also going through the same thing, but because you just keep it under wraps, that there could be other people that are very close to you that could, you know, that are going through the same thing.
Let's take it away a little bit. And obviously she passed away, and the awareness that she created from family and friends. I know 2 trainers, PTs that trained her, and the awareness that they like raised a lot of money for mental health charity, and if it was there was a suicidal charity as well. The amount of awareness that this has created is unbelievable, and it's really sad that it does have to take someone like Caroline Flack and that to do this. But if it was like, you know, there's other women out there struggling, like proper struggling, so they, you know, a lot of people then start relating to Caroline's story of, you know, maybe not having the best of relationships. I mean, you know, she like that her mum said, she did go through a lot of men. She was never satisfied, she was never happy, she got bored quickly. Like, that shows no satisfaction in life at all, does it really? Like, I know she had all the Love Islands and a great job, but she couldn't, you know, keep a relationship going. And you know, what I'm trying to say is that people struggling out there nowadays need to talk more, need to talk not just to their family, but friends as well. Because, you know, if I'm talking to you, Matt, say, or you, Sanj, and you feel the same as me, and I might not even have picked up that you feel low or have got those, feel exactly the same as I do. So instead of talking to like one person, 2 people, talk a little bit more to people that you trust. That's a massive thing that I took from myself, really.
Yeah, definitely. And like you say, there's, you know, if you speak, the more people that are aware of your situation and the more that you have around you. I know that we mentioned last time about if you had a group of 10 people, Sanjay, that you mentioned there, you had a lineup of 10 friends. How many of those are the types of friends that you would go to in the first instance that you felt that you were feeling low or whatever? And would be less than a handful of people. Less than half of those people you would go to in the first instance. But also it's the same thing, is that if you only speak to your mum, you know, I think in Caroline's instance, she probably spoke to her mum, maybe her sister a little bit, and maybe one of her friends. Then, you know, if they're not going through it, as in their lives are moved on, and her friend was, you know, in a similar industry, but she was in a long-term relationship, she had all of that kind of family thing, where Caroline never really had that. She never really had that stability, and maybe it was probably the people that she was surrounding herself with, like you say, the relationships, that weren't really understanding what she was doing. They just thought she was a bit crazy, but actually they didn't understand her actual illness that she was going through at the time, you know. And I think that's the thing, if there was more people that were surrounding her that she spoke to, you know, if she spoke to Ollie Mersmore, for example, or she spoke to people that were close to her, Natalie Pinkman was on there, you know, things like that. If she spoke to those types of people, which seemed very down to earth, very, you know, genuine people, you know, even Dermot as well and his wife seemed very, you know, they seem like lovely people. And again, if she opened up to those types of people, then she probably could have got help. And it didn't need to be in the media. And we haven't even talked about the media in this thing yet, but, you know, it didn't need to be all over, splashed over the media. Just being like, look, I'm going through this thing. Do you know anybody that can help me, you know, or whatever? And just be that ear or that shoulder, you know.
The only thing is the media manipulate stories like that. That's the issue, isn't it? Which then causes further damage.
Of course. And that was, you know, I think the last straw really, which was, you know, really upsetting, which was obviously a fight that she'd had with a couple of her partners, and had got out of hand, that caused her to kind of spiral a little bit, and she felt that she couldn't get out of that. You know, there was one where she like self-harmed herself, but it looked, you know, the media made it seem like it was, you know, she'd beaten this guy up again, you know, she'd done this whole thing again, and all this kind of stuff, and all the headlines that came up on the program as well. It's like Caroline Whack and all this kind of stuff. And just thinking, hold on a second, like, I get that you're trying to sell a story, right? But you got to think there's a person behind that story.
They don't care though, do they?
They don't.
They don't care. It's money, isn't it?
And that's the problem. Is really the cause of death is not only just Caroline taking her own life, but the sheer pressure and the sheer, you know, the surrounding of that, you know, social media and that instance. Yes, she was a social media addict, and there are a lot of people that are, you know, in that industry, that are surrounded by it, that are, you know, that is their life. They, you know, perceive this image, and then they're kind of, you know, putting that across, and they're obviously, you know, very conscious of that. But again, it's like this, the media have just spun all these stories out of it, because that's what sells. People will read that, they like Caroline Flack, and they think, oh my god, like Caroline, like what's going on? Like that's what we don't see that when you're this bubbly character that's on these TV shows.
Yep.
And then that's what sells, you know.
Yeah, there was a little clip on there as well, just jumping in on that, of her getting out of a car, going into a hotel. There was a photographer, and she had a coat over her head, and this photographer was like, what are you doing? Why are you not giving me time? Why are you not showing your face? Imagine like leaving your house and having a photographer straight in your face straight away. I'll be dreading going out. Like, how are you supposed to have a good time? How are you supposed to get away from it? They're there around the corner all the time.
No break.
You've got to also remember that there is a side story to this, is that she actually thrived off that. At some point, she actually got a buzz off being in the public eye. Like, she actually like enjoyed being papped. She subconsciously enjoyed having people talk about her. Maybe obviously not in the negative way, but people talking about her, because the fact that people were talking about her made her feel fulfilled. We all know realistically deep down that was not the right way to be going to think about it, and she's obviously very misunderstood. But I genuinely think, just going back a little bit to when she, obviously her family and stuff knew about her situation, there's got to be a massive point of educating family members on how to deal with people with mental health, or how to pick up the signs, or what to do. Family, if you've got someone, and I'm speaking from experience as well, if you've got someone who's got a mental health illness within your immediate family or family, you do not want them to be speaking or trying to get advice from other family members. It's one of the worst things you can do. Your family members absolutely need to be there to support you, not give you advice, because they do not know what's right for you in that time. They need to go out and seek a professional. So, for example, if she went to her sister and said, oh, look, you know, I'm not feeling great, I'm feeling quite depressed, for all these reasons, I don't know what to do. Her sister could say, look, I'm here for you, I'm here to support you. How about we try this, you know, and go seek external help? Because without that, but the thing is, at that time, if you don't know how to handle it, and you're like a sister or a brother or a mum or dad, then how are you supposed to deal with it?
Yeah.
Like, you have no idea, and then you could be given the wrong advice, which unfortunately I think may have been given at some point through that.
Yeah,
it's a real fine line.
I totally agree with that, and I think that is, again, is I totally agree with educating, you know, families and things like that, because again, it's, you know, if you are feeling down, or if you are going to family members and you're using them as your, you know, you're expressing your feelings to your family, they will almost, you know, if you say, oh, I'm feeling down, or this particular instance is making me feel down, that family member or the family members that you're talking to will try and extract you from that that experience, which is very difficult. You know, if you think, Caroline, oh, you know, the media themselves are causing me to feel like this, you can't necessarily take her away from that, because they're always going to be there, right? Because that's her career, that's what they're helping her to get to that point. But also, secondly, you know, it's also the family just going, right, let's just distract you by doing something different instead, you know, rather than actually saying, yeah, let's go and physically get some help. They just go, oh, let's just have fun, let's have a good day, and let's not think about it, and all that kind of stuff.
The more famous she was going to get,
I mean,
sorry, mate. The more famous she got, mate, the more she must expect she's going to be in the media eye. So, you know, you sort of kind of, I think you need to prepare for it. You do. Especially now, if you're new.
It was almost like, the thing is, mate, just to jump in on that, but it was almost like an addictive trait she had, and she was getting addicted to that. That was the problem. Even though she knew it was wrong and it was actually messing her up, she was almost addicted to that fame in a weird way.
Like, not coming off her phone. Like, I'm very good at doing that. Coming off your phone. She was always on her phone all the time, because, like you say, she was addicted to, like, who was following her, what, you know, am I keeping enough update on my social media? Because people nowadays are really nosy in people's lives, and if you show that, then they're going to be all over it.
The question I've got that comes to my mind is that how many other celebrities or even just people that are in a similar position to that Caroline was, and not seeking help. Like you look at the likes of Tyson Fury, who's gone through all this pain and then come out the other side. Keanu Reeves has gone through all this pain, come out the other side. I mean, the list is endless. The amount of people like that have come through this and they are in the public eye. Like it would always be so amazing if Caroline did come through it and then she was telling her story, you know, and she went to rehab or whatever it might be. But the question is, who else right now is in that similar position, and how do we encourage them to go out and start talking? That's always the golden question, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah. And that's the most difficult thing, isn't it? The most difficult question is, you know, they probably know themselves that they need to come out and say, look, I'm going through this. And it's the vulnerability, isn't it? It's that whole thing of, are you willing to be vulnerable and open up about it? When like you say, Sanjay, there's loads of other examples where they have opened up about their vulnerability and saying, yes, I've gone through this and I'm feeling, or I currently feel, there's episodes that I have every day or every other day that I feel, you know, I'm up or down. I'm very, you know, don't really have a steady day. I'm either up or down either day, right? So, and that's the thing, is if they can come out and be open like that, then again, I think that will also encourage other people that aren't in the public eye, that are also going through the same thing, is to say, yeah, I'm feeling the same as well.
Yeah.
That's why some people, sorry to butt in, that's why some people are setting up Instagram accounts, sharing their feelings and trying to create this community of, we feel the same. A lot of people are doing that.
And it's they're doing it sort of behind, not even showing their face or anything. They're just literally posting stuff, but nothing. So you don't know who they are, basically.
Yeah, like a little quote, and then like a massive context worth of how they're feeling. And then there's all these comments like, oh my God, it's so good to hear that. I feel exactly the same. And creating this whole like community, which I feel like social media now is creating this like community in different areas of like different people feeling the same, but not showing their identity or not showing their face. Like you said, Sanj, and you know, which is good, which is a good
powerful. That's powerful.
Pretty powerful. Really, really powerful.
Do you think though something like that would help people resolve it or be more conscious of it, or you know, is that something that will actually, you know, bring somebody out of feeling that way?
No, 100%, because you're making them. I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here, but when I was teaching my cancer rehabilitation stuff, the whole purpose was that, yes, to get the exercise, to get the movement, but the whole purpose was not to make one person feel like they're going through this whole experience on their own, to be amongst of a group, to be surrounded by people that are feeling exactly the same, having the same emotions, the same side effects from different treatments, making people not feel alone. So I do feel that it's really the interactive side of it is powerful, really powerful. And that's a very good positive for social media. We're very quick to blame social media for the negativity it takes on people, but things like that. We had, I'm going to go off a tangent a little bit again, but we had Alexa Taylor on talking about the group that she's created. That's a community in itself. People feeling like she does, or been through the same thing as what she's been through. So it does help, you know.
No, that's very true, and same again with Helen as well, and you know, Living Liberty thing, and you know, it's very much so. Is that, you know, there is the sense of community, or sense of, you know, somebody you can confide. It doesn't necessarily need to have a face, or need to have somebody that you are aware of. You know what I mean? Like, as in, sometimes when you go to a friend or a family, they are invested in you because they know you personally to a degree,
and also a bit biased.
Exactly, right.
And they got existing relationship with you, so it's such a different dynamic.
Yeah, and that could also change slightly when you say that you do feel vulnerable. You know, so say like if you're in a relationship with someone and you go, do you know what, I'm feeling really down, really low, and that is the reason why I've been a bit distant recently. It depends on that relationship. That person in that relationship could go, look, I'm here for you, like whatever you need, if you're feeling down, let's try and, seek help for it, whatever. But then you could also get the other end, which I get the feeling that Caroline probably had, which was that she probably expressed to them and was saying that she was going through these ups and downs, very kind of bipolar type, tendencies. And they didn't know how to react. They didn't know how to help. They didn't necessarily know whether they didn't want to help, but they just didn't know how to help. And that's what escalated to this point. And I'm not necessarily blaming those guys, but it kind of helped, right? So
there is another caveat to this as well. Like, obviously, depression can come in so many different forms or ways. I was speaking to my mate Sean the other day, who was addicted to cocaine and then pretty much drinking as well, pretty much an alcoholic. And he, again, had a similar sort of thing where he had an Instagram account and he had a whole community. And then I had another podcast on my podcast with a lady who was in debt and financial difficulty. And that also went to depression. And they formed an Instagram profile where it was just completely blank, or anonymous, as they call it. There's so many different things you can do if you've got so many problems. But the thing is, once you start putting yourself out there, that community is there and it is powerful. So yeah, it's a crazy world we live in, but there is help out there.
Yeah. And it also as well, just to finish up, is that it doesn't necessarily always need to be someone giving you an answer, but also secondly, it doesn't need to be somebody who is necessarily a professional. You just need somebody to express a way to express yourself on the way that you're feeling. That just getting that out by just typing it or talking it or doing whatever can actually just relieve that tension sometimes. And again, obviously, feeling that it is really affecting the way you're working, the way that your relationships are with friends, family, other people as well that you're in relationships with. If you feel that is the case, then by all means, we say let's talk, but also seek help. There is professional help out there, free professional help as well, that you don't need to go to some sort of expensive retreat to try and solve it. There is help out there for everyone. So but yeah, again, guys, the last couple of podcasts have been quite interesting, but quite sad stories that we've had to talk about, really, that we've decided to talk about. And I think that going forward we will continue to talk around these stories, and again try and raise this kind of community of people that can feel that they can talk and express themselves. So again, as I said before, if there is anything that you guys want us to talk about or to come on the show potentially as well, then by all means reach out, DM us at Let's Talk with Matt and Johnny on Instagram or on Facebook. Let us know, and yeah, we look forward to speaking to you soon. Thanks very much for your time today, guys. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys.
We'll see you next time.
See you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
See you later.